CDH Films presents an animated storybook retold with building blocks. The Lost Hero, Book 1 of Heroes of Olympus, from the original novel by Rick Riordan, narrated to you by yours truly. Since the beginning of time, and life spread across the earth, like all life, immortal deities began spawning their own offspring, including the goddess Gaia, the mother of the Titans. And out of all these titans who would rise to power was Kronos, the Lord of Time, who would later father the first generation of the Olympian gods: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus. And although they were all nearly consumed, these gods would band together to overthrow the selfish, power-hungry Titan Lord and cast his remains into the depths of Tartarus. For many millennia, the gods lived in harmony, but little did they know Kronos would eventually rise back up again for another chance to conquer the world. Little did he know the gods had bared a new generation of heroes, and out of all these heroes to stand up to the evil Titan Lord was the mighty Percy Jackson, the son of Poseidon. With the support of friends and family, Percy was victorious and led his people to a new era of peace and prosperity. But such things can only last for so long before a new enemy rises up. But as time passes by, there can be room for a new generation of heroes. Like Jason. Jason was about 15, maybe 16. He couldn't remember correctly. In fact, he couldn't remember at all. On top of that, he couldn't even remember anything before waking up on a school bus which was driving over the Grand Canyon. He must have caught amnesia or something. What was really confusing was that a pretty girl was sitting next to him and holding his hand. "Jason, you okay?" she asked. Her name was Piper McLean. She was about his age, and she claimed to be his girlfriend. That was shocking. Did Jason just hit the jackpot? He thought he would have remembered having her for a girlfriend. She was really cute, but it seemed like she was trying not to look pretty. She had a tomboy-type look, almost as if she didn't want to draw attention to herself. But that didn't help much. She looked like she was born to be pretty. There was also a younger, annoying kid in the seat behind them named Leo Valdez, who claimed to be his best friend. I don't know you," Jason said, nervously. "I'm not supposed to be here." "Leo, I think he needs help," Piper said. Leo played along and just said, "Your parents, the court, or whatever, decided you're nothing but trouble, so they sent you here to this delinquent school. Whoops, sorry, wilderness school in Nevada, and now we're here on a field trip to the Grand Canyon. And of course you're not supposed to be here, just like me, for not running away from like 7 foster homes. Or like Piper here for borrowing a car and not stealing it. We're also best friends, and Piper, well, she's sort of more than your friend." Then, another voice from the opposite end of the bus shouted, "All right, cupcakes, listen up!" It was the teacher in charge of the trip. Judging by his clothes, he seemed like a gym teacher. He looked around 40 and had a shaggy beard. His name was Coach Hedge. "So remember," he continued, "stay with your partners and don't lose your worksheets. And no funny business, or it's back to campus the hard way." He spotted Jason, and Jason felt his spine tingle. What if this really wasn't where he was supposed to be? What if the coach knew that? And what would he do? Jason wouldn't be able to explain himself. But the coach just looked away, and they arrived at the Skywalk. When everyone was split into groups of 2, Piper was unfortunately put with a guy named Dylan, who was a real pig with girls, and Jason was left with Leo. As they walked along the horseshoe-shaped walkway, Leo noticed something strange in the sky. A storm cloud, but it looked like it was just hovering over them while the rest of the sky was clear in all directions. It was almost like one of those tiny clouds in cartoons that floated over a depressed character's head wherever they went, only this one was covering up the whole museum. Jason had a bad feeling about that. Jason put his hands in his pocket and felt something metal. He pulled out a coin made of gold. Why did he get the feeling like he was going to need it soon? Whoa, is that real gold? Leo asked. Have you been holding out on me? But Jason was so focused on his mixed up memory, he changed the subject. Are you sure we're friends? Jason asked. Last I checked, Leo said. But when? When did we meet? What did we first talk about? Jason asked. Well, I'm sure it was the beginning of the semester, Leo said. What we first talked about? I don't know, man. With all this dyslexia, you can't expect me to remember specifics like that. But I don't remember you at all, Jason complained. What if you're right and everyone else is wrong? You think you just showed up here just today and we all got fake memories of you? Leo asked. A little voice inside Jason's head said, That's exactly it. Then Jason just walked over to the coach. The coach stared at him and asked, Did you do this? What are you even doing here, pal? You trying to mess up my job? You mean, I'm not one of your students? Jason asked. What, you thought I was just stupid enough to not know my own students when I see them? Of course not. I've never seen you before in my life. So where'd you come from, kid? Jason was so relieved he almost felt like crying. Then he explained to the coach about how he had woken up on the bus and had no memory before that. Interesting, the coach said. Wonder who could have pulled that off. I know I've been smelling a monster around somewhere, but you don't really smell like a monster. No, you smell like half-blood. Well, that's just great. Now I gotta worry about 3 of you. 98% of what the guy said didn't make any sense to Jason. Half-bloods? Monsters? Look, sir, I don't understand what's going on, but can you help me? Do you have any idea who could have put me here? Or why? Look, kid, said the coach. I don't know who you are. I just know what you are. Hopefully the extraction team won't take too long to get here. In the meantime, we should... Then, all of a sudden, the weather got worse. The thunder and wind was crazy. I had to say something, the coach said. All right, cupcakes, everyone back inside. But Hedge, Jason, Piper, Leo, and Dylan were all locked out. The wind seemed to just push the door shut. Then Dylan pushed Piper down. Then he spread out black wings, while the rest of his body now looked like it was made of smoke. My mistress shall award me greatly for your death, he said. Dylan, I should have known it was you, said the coach. Honestly, coach, Dylan said, I've been on your team all year, and it took you this long? No wonder they forced you to retire. You're losing your nose, Grandpa. Then, somehow a funnel cloud materialized around Leo, making him fly over the edge, and he ended up hanging on a ledge below them. Then, Hedge ripped off his pants, revealing scrawny, hairy, hooved legs. You're a fawn? Jason asked. What? A fawn? No, a satyr, he said. Fawns are Roman, but we'll talk about that later. As the coach went to save Leo, Jason was left alone with Dylan. 2 more funnel clouds came down, and now there were 3 of them. Just then, somehow, as if it were coming back to him, Jason knew what to do. He pulled out the coin, flipped it in the air, and when it landed in his hand, his golden coin was now a golden sword. He sliced and diced at the other 2 monsters, and they disappeared. Then, Piper jumped on Dylan, but was immediately thrown over the edge. The coach climbed up with Leo. Jason, go! Save her! He shouted. I'll get him! Save her? He asked. She's gone. I've seen kids like you before, the coach said. You can do it. Jason didn't know what he was talking about, but his instincts won. He felt like a lunatic, but he jumped over the edge and dived straight toward her. He wrapped his arms around her waist, and then something happened. They were floating. Piper adjusted herself so she could hold on to Jason, and they both froze. They were nose to nose, and Piper's heart was beating hard. How did you... She hesitated. I don't know, said Jason. I think I would have remembered if I could fly. Then Jason looked upward and thought, up, and they shot back up the Skywalk. He definitely would have remembered if he could fly. They saw that the weather wasn't as bad now. Dylan was gone, and for some reason, so was Coach Hedge. Leo was covered in monster dust and laid flat on the floor. Leo? Are you okay? Piper panicked. Say something. Flying chicken horse, Leo said deliriously. That's when they noticed something new in the sky. Something that was too big for a bird, too slow for a plane, and probably not colorful enough to be Superman. It was a horse chariot, pulled by a winged horse and driven by two people. Jason helped Piper carry Leo through the doors, out the front entrance, and to the parking lot. There was no sign of the other students, or other tourists, or staff. They all must have fled due to the storm. They came outside just in time to see the chariot land across from them, and a strange blonde girl jumped off. "Where is he?" she said. "Where is your protector, Gleason Hedge?" His first name was Gleason? Jason thought. "He was taken by the storm guys," Piper said. "No, no, no! You said he'd be here!" she shouted to the sky. "What more do you want from me? Where is he?" "What's her problem? What's going on?" Piper asked. Then, the bald chariot driver came over and said, "Listen, guys, I know this is bad, but you have to trust us. Hedge was supposed to wait for us to get here, but if he's gone, we have no other choice. I'll explain everything else on the way." "I'm not going anywhere with her," Jason said. "She acts like she wants to kill me." "Oh, it's okay. Annabeth here is usually really cool, but you'll have to cut her some slack right now," the driver said. "She's just upset because she lost her boyfriend, a guy named Percy Jackson." As they flew through the sky, Leo asked, "Where are we going?" "The only safe place for people like us," said Annabeth. "Camp Half-Blood." "Excuse me?" Piper asked. She never really liked that word, half-blood. Stuff like that always offended her because her schoolmates always kept making fun of her for being half Cherokee and half white. "It means we're demigods," Jason said. "Half god, half human." "That's right, Jason," said Annabeth. "I'm the daughter of Athena, goddess of wisdom. And Butch here is the son of Iris, the goddess of rainbows." Then the chariot went faster, and everything blurred and went black. When it was clear again, they were now flying over a green valley somewhere in New York. Then the chariot wheels popped off and the Pegasus got tired. "Aim for the lake!" Annabeth shouted. They all jumped in. The water was freezing, but they swam to the shore. A large crowd of other kids came to help. While some of them were dressed in their own casual clothes, others had the same orange camp shirt that Annabeth wore. A blonde guy stepped forward and argued, "Annabeth, what happened? I said you could borrow the chariot, not trash it." "Sorry, Will," she said. "We were attacked and needed to get out of there fast. I promise I'll fix it later, okay?" Then, a raven-haired girl stepped forward and said, "Well, I hope they were worth the trouble." She sneered at Piper, and Piper knew right away they were going to be enemies. "Drew," Annabeth said to the raven-haired girl, "every half-blood is worth saving, and hopefully they'll be claimed by the campfire tonight." Question? What is claiming?" Leo asked. Then, suddenly, above them appeared a glowing hammer. Everyone just stared at Leo. "What?" he asked. "Was it something I said?" "That is claiming," said Annabeth. "That's the symbol of Vulcan," Jason exclaimed. Everyone just stared at him. "Vulcan?" Leo asked confusingly. "What's this talk about Vulcan? I don't even like Star Trek." "That's the Roman name for Hephaestus, the god of fire and blacksmith of the gods," Annabeth said. "Jason, how did you know that?" she asked him. I guess I learned about it somewhere. I just can't remember where," said Jason. Then, Annabeth asked Will to take Leo down to Cabin 9. "Come on, Mr. Spock," he said. "I'll show you to your cabin." Jason just realized the warm temperature within the camp's boundaries and took off his windbreaker. Underneath, he wore a purple t-shirt with golden letters that said SPQR. What Annabeth noticed on his wrists were some strange burn marks burned into his arm. The same letters on his shirt with a zigzag over it and about 10 lines above that. "What are those?" she asked. "I don't know," he said, getting tired of saying the same words all day. Piper watched as Annabeth held his arm. One thing about girls, they usually don't like it when other girls touch their boyfriends, even if it's just the arm. But Annabeth looked at him more like she was studying a complicated blueprint. Then she asked Drew to take Jason to the Blue House to meet Kyron, the activities director. Seeing that made Piper feel even worse. "Who's Kyron?" he asked. "You'll see," Drew said. Annabeth took Piper with her and showed her around.